some statutes that say this statute is so important that any contract that purports to waive it is void and against public policy. And so what the legislature does is they anticipate that people may try to get others to waive some of their important rights, and so they preempt that right at the beginning. They say any attempted waiver is against public policy, it's void. In other words, if we have to interpret this, we're going to disregard your private law, which is the contract, and the statute trumps. This statute does not have that language. It does not say any attempted waiver of this is against public policy and void, but some other statutes do. And so if you're a lawyer and you live in this world and you deal with these kind of questions, then the question is, so what happens in a situation where you get, as I sometimes see, an approval letter that says, we will approve your short sale, we'll release the lien of your deed of trust, and here's the literal language. We will charge this off as an uncollectible debt. You will hear from our collection department about getting repayment from you. That's almost a direct quote. Okay? We will charge this off as a collectible debt. I mean, what does that mean? That's confusing right out of the works for most borrowers. Charge it off sounds like we're going to write it off. Then it says as a collectible debt. Well, why is it collectible if you charge it off? And then the next sentence, our collection department will be in touch with you about repayment. That's a concern. So it sounds like that those lenders internally are saying, we're going to write this off as uncollectible, but we're still going to come after you for payment. What happens with this new statute where it just says if the lender gives written consent, then they're obligated to accept full payment? And the answer is, I can see two possible results on this as the courts apply this, or as we negotiate with the lenders before the courts give us guidance, which may be years down the road, which is it can either be A, the court might say, well, the statute trumps, and even if you don't expressly release liability, even if you say we're going to reserve the liability, you're out. Or the court might say, well, you can waive this. You can waive this. So that leads to kind of the final point in this group of points, which is this. There are other cases that talk about what is required in order to waive a right. And a waiver is an issue of fact. And here's what that means. Waiver is determined by what the party's intentions are at the time. And so if you have a letter that comes from a lender and it says, we're going to approve your short sale, but you hereby expressly agree to waive the protections of CCP 580E. You see how that's more dangerous than one that just says, we reserve the right to come after you for payment? There's a question there. If you see a waiver, it may be stronger, more likely to be upheld by the court because there's no anti-waiver provision in the statute. We've just walked through all the details on this. It's very fine. It's very complex. In a nutshell, the big point is the best policy really is as sellers are being advised about short sales, the best thing is just say, you know what, I'm not prepared to give you an opinion about whether or not you might have liability on these loans after this short sale. Why don't you see counsel?